Hey there, folks. It's Wednesday, and you are listening to MWM podcast movie series. So we have a guest speaker, and it is Zaigam, who just appeared this Monday on Books podcast. He's come back again for a movie podcast. So yeah, let's welcome Zaigam.
Hi everyone. I'm so happy to be back on the podcast.
Uh,
And
yeah. So Zaigam has picked up a movie for us to talk about it. So what is it, Zaigam?
I want to talk about my favorite movie. One of my favorite movies, I'd say. So it's Fight Club by David Fincher.
And fortunately, I have also watched Fight Club, and it's a very popular movie. You know, Edward Norton and Brad Pitt, one of the legendary combinations in Hollywood history. So, yeah, fortunately, I watched it, so I can ask some insightful questions to Zaigam. So, yeah, Zaigam, just walk us through the story of Fight Club.
Sure. So before I begin, I want to tell like the hardcore fans because the first rule of Fight Club is not to talk about Fight Club. But here we are doing a podcast, so let's talk about Fight Club. Okay, so it was directed by David Fincher, and I suppose it was released back in like 1999. And at first, when it was first released, it wasn't that popular or didn't do that well on the box office. It was actually a flop on the box office. But gradually over the years, it has become this cult classic, and even like some people have like declared it as one of the best movies ever made, because and for all the right reasons. So Fight Club is about this guy whose name is not declared. He's just a narrator, and his character is played by Edward Norton in the movie. And he is just this guy who has insomnia and very depressed with his monotonous life, and he's just living, life where it's taking him. Then something happens in the movie, and like a huge event, and then he meets this other person randomly whose name is Tyler Durden, and he is completely opposite of him. So he is like this masculine guy who just doesn't give a crap about anything. He just lives life on his own terms, and he has this philosophy during the entire movie. He keeps saying this stuff about how you should live and how you should be free in your life doing things, and how consumerism has a hold on us, and how the society is just trying to control us. So
Uh, yeah, so as you were narrating the story, I could remember a lot of scenes. So, first question, who were you impressed with, Edward Norton or Brad Pitt?
I mean, as good as an actor Edward Norton is, he is brilliant. But Brad Pitt just steals the show here, man. Like his character Tyler Durden is just iconic. Like wherever you go in pop culture, his character is just iconic, and I think just Brad Pitt was the best in the movie, according to me.
Okay, and yeah, the so which character you relate to most?
If you ask me, relating to more, because since I am right now doing a corporate job and kind of living the life that the narrator was living, but then the philosophy that I resonate with is obviously of Tyler Durden's, because that's what he talks about, right? You go to your job your entire life and you don't do the things that you actually like doing, and you just succumb to society's rules just for money and stuff, and that's why you're not entirely free. So yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, when most of us in Bangalore here feel the same, and personally, I like the movie because, as you said, that introvert and extrovert nature,
Right.
duality of life. So it was brilliantly portrayed through these two characters. And as an introvert myself, I could relate to Edward Norton's character.
Yeah.
But then Brad Pitt's role is something we everyone could wish for, but definitely can't, just
Ye-
switch like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so as you were stressing about, it's not just about fighting, but then the way one should live in a society.
Yeah.
So yeah, can you just speak more about it?
Yeah. So on that note, I mean, the thing is, like, I keep seeing on these like online social media platforms and stuff that people are idealizing the character of Brad Pitt, Tyler Durden, and I believe that's like really stupid, because they shouldn't do it, because at the end of the day, his practices are kind of like immoral only, and he literally does terrorism by the end of the movie. He blows up an entire building. So I mean, okay, so there's this notion that to separate the art from the artist, right? So we have to look at it from a critical point of view, because you can't just idolize someone like him. He's actually a kind of like a psychopath only, but that doesn't mean that the things he teaches or talks about are completely wrong. If you just ponder it and take your own take on it, then probably you can get help from it. And I would highly recommend that people read the book, because the book emphasizes more on the philosophy rather than his character and trying to romanticize his character. So,
Yeah, so you just mentioned the book. So I presume the book came before and they adapted it. So what is the difference between the book and the movie?
yes, so the book was written by somebody named Chuck Palahniuk, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, and yeah, it did come before the movie, and there are some differences in the plot as well, and the characterization even. And I mean, if you are into this hardcore, violence thing and reading about like dark stuff, then probably you'll like it. But it's really vulgar. Let me just warn you. And I mean, yeah, sure. And even the book was a huge hit, unlike the movie initially, at least. But then, as the years have gone by, now people recognize the book as well as the movie. So.
Okay, so yeah, let's move away from the philosophy now. So, as a movie, what impressed you the most? The narrative structure or the surprising element? So, I don't think we should talk about the twist, but as we like, there are twists. It's a huge twist in the movie, so we don't want to talk about it. But then, like, let's discuss what attracted us to the movie.
Sure, sure. So, I mean, it is directed by David Fincher, right? David Fincher is like one of the greatest directors of our generation, and I mean, compared to his other movies, you might think this is a little different, but he has his signature styles, right? The camera work where he just zooms in, and then even the music that he chooses for different scenes. It's so profound, and I mean, if you go and read about the movie, there's so many hidden. Easter eggs as well. So I mean, if yeah, it's quite interesting to learn that. And I mean, yeah, if it's a David Fincher movie, I have to watch it. So
Okay, so have you watched the recent one, The Killer?
The Killer, I have it downloaded, but I haven't watched it yet. So
Okay. Okay. So yeah, I mean, so as you said, it's pretty on the color. It's on a dark side.
right.
So did that make any difference?
I mean, almost all the David Fincher movies are on the like the color palette is almost dark, because his subject matter itself is pretty. He deals with all these subject matters like murder and all these crime scenes. So if you've watched Seven, that's like even more depressing and so dark, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't take the interest from the film, because that was like one of the most interesting films I've seen. And even in Fight Club, so there's like contrast. When he tries to show something that you need to pay attention to, he'll use the colors, but usually, yeah, it's on the dull side. So
Okay. And yeah, coming to the cinematography and editing. So did you feel any outstanding aspect?
Coming on that front, I mean, I really don't have a lot of knowledge on cinematography and editing, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I don't know who did the cinematography in this movie, but the ending scene was quite like surprising, because when the whole explosion thing happens, and yeah, that the scale of it was okay. I was like, okay, that's something that they did. And the action, I mean, the fighting, you might think that there's no fighting, but there is plenty of fighting, although the context of it is different. But yeah, the gore and the fight scenes are actually so realistic, and I don't think CGI would have ever done it.
Okay. How many times have you watched the movie?
It's hard to tell, man. I first watched it when I was a teenager back in like 2014 or something. Since then, I might have watched it around like 5-6 times now.
Okay, I mean, yeah, just now before the podcast, we were watching trailer and it was so interesting.
Yeah.
And I have to watch it again. So I watched only once, and yeah, I was wondering, what if they had switched the roles? Would it have worked out?
Like switch the roles of Tyler, like Brad Pitt's character.
Yeah.
I think it wouldn't have worked out, because Edward Norton is not like a huge bulky guy or anything, right? And the way he acts is quite serious, and I guess he would have done like he did a better role as the depressing guy. And Brad Pitt, he literally is the icon that we know him, and and back in the 90s he was on the top, right? So yeah, I mean the choice to choose Brad Pitt for Tyler Durden's character was absolute like perfection.
Yeah, I mean he keeps him recurring, right? Seven and then this one.
Right,
It's
yeah.
really
He
good
has
to-
done quite a few films with David Fincher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else? What other movies of David Fincher have you watched? Apart from
I,
Seven, yeah.
yeah, I watched Seven. I watched this one called The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Okay, that is again Brad Pitt, right?
That is again Brad
Yeah.
Pitt, correct. That one. Then I have to watch The Killer. It's on my watch list. So yeah, I'm excited to watch that. What else have I watched? I guess he did this documentary thing. I'm not sure, but yeah, I guess I watched that. So
Yeah. So to our audience, why should they watch Fight Club?
okay, so if you're into films or if you go to any film community, let's suppose, people are really going to bug you if you haven't watched Fight Club, first of all. So yeah, for reason number one. Reason number two, if you like to watch good films, you should actually you should give it a try, because though you might not like the movie because of the violence and the vulgarity of it, but you can't just deny the philosophy that Tyler Durden puts out there. And if you look at the today's society, how we are living our lives, so consumed by content and everything around us, like everything you have to make a subscription and pay for it, every single thing. I recently shifted to an apartment, and man, it was such a headache. You have to figure out every single thing on your own. And then at that time, I was like, okay, maybe Tyler Durden was right. Yeah. So yeah, do give it a try. It's like you have to.
Yeah, I mean, as a YouTuber who has been reviewing and talking about movies for 2 years now, I'm telling you, it's like Fight Club is one of the greatest movie, and it's a milestone in both Edward Norton and Brad Pitt's career. So it's very striking and resonating. So you would obviously relate to either Edward Norton character or Brad Pitt character. So it's 100% resonating movie. So do check it out, and let's thank Zaigam for a beautiful session.
Sure, sure.
I hope he comes back again for another podcast, both books and movies.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to, man.
Yeah, so I believe you enjoyed listening to this MWM podcast. Today we were talking about Fight Club, so it's out there. Just go watch it. It's a great movie, and yeah, see you. I mean, you'll hear me from another episode. Until then, it's Matt Dawson. You're listening to MWM Podcast Movies. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.